Terminal illness is a bad life and death decision that arise with the progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, and express his wishes regarding the choice available. Now he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want extreme measures, such as artificial breathing or tube feeding? It is important for family and the victim to think about the question long before the victim is completed without any voice. Their issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by delaying it as the dying patient is sustained in an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing the living well with the patient while he is in the early stage of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of extraordinary measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for a victim with a terminal illness is about life and death decisions that arise with the progression of the disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, and express his wishes regarding the choices available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want extreme measures such as artificial breathing and feeding? It is important for a family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is confronted without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by delaying it as the dead patient is sustained in an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for family involved. Preparing a living well with the patient while he is in early stage of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of extraordinary measures taken to sustain living state artificially while he is dying. Choice is available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want extreme measures such as artificial breathing and tube feeding? It is important for family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is confronted without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by delaying it as the dying patient is sustained in an unnatural state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing living well with the patient while he is in the early stage of the body disease. One step to address his objection to the use of external measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. Uh, Rapid progression of a disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reasons, and explains issues regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to treat it? Does he want to take certain measures, such as authorship bleeding and tube feeding? It is important for a family and the victim to think about this question long before the completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by denying it as dying patient is sustained in artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for families involved, preparing living with the patient. In one step toward addressing his objection to the use of extreme measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. Now, the most important way a caregiver must work for victims with terminal illness is about life and death decisions that rise with progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss reasons and express his wishes regarding the choices available when he is confronting the last stages of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want extreme measures, such as artificial breathing and tube feeding? It is important for family and the victim to think about this question long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discount with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by denying it a dying patient to sustain an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing the living will with the patient while he is in an early state of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to use extreme measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. Scott reasoned and expressed his wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want extreme measures such as artificial breathing and tube feeding? It is important for family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by denying it that dying patient is sustained in artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for our family involved. Preparing a living will with the patient for his early state of the disease in one step to addressing his objection to the use of extraordinary measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for a victim with a terminal illness is about life and death decision that rise with progression of the disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, and express his wishes regarding the choice available, and he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? that he wanted extreme measures, such as active bleeding and tube feeding. It is important for family and the victim to think these questions long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On one hand, we have tried to wrestle death by denying the dying patient is sustained in an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing a living will with the patient while he is in an early stage of the disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of external measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. Hmm. In many countries, organ transplants are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients with incurable disease of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplants from brain-dead donors, and the first transplants were performed in 1999. During the first 3 years of legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. Around also facing the medical community is that law does not define brain death as human death, yet only allow brain dead patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of living organ or body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. To cope with this shortage, animal organs such as bamboo and pig livers can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1963. Obstacles remain, however. The body can reject an organ or contract any disease, as some people oppose such transplant for ethical reasons. In many countries, organ transplants are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients with incurable disease of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant for brain-dead donors, and the first transplant was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years of legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that the law does not define brain death as human death, it only allows brain death patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are uncomfortable with this idea of removing the organ from a body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, as organs are in short supply. To cope with the shortage, animal organs such as bamboo and pig liver can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 19. Obstacles remain, however. The body can reject the organ or contraction any disease, and some people suppose such uh, liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant from brain-dead donors, and the first transplant was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years of legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that the law does not define dead brain death as human death, yet only allows brain-dead patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart. are comfortable with the idea of removing cocaine. Define brain death as human death. Only allow brain dead patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are many Japanese are uh, um, uh, uncomfortable, uh, uncomfortable, uncomfortable. Many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart. The idea of removing organs from a body with a breast beating heart. I am comfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart. The Oscar-facing medical community is that the road that must define brain death as human death, yet only know waiting patients to donate organs. Even though many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached. Our organs are in short supply. To cope with this shortage, animal organs such as bamboo and pig livers can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1960. Uh, and some people oppose such transplant for ethical reasons. In many countries, organ transplant are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients with incurable diseases of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant from brain-dead donors, and the first transplant was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years after legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that the law does not define brain death as human death; it only allows brain-dead patients to donate organs. Even though many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from bodies with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, national consensus on brain death will have been reached. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. Even if the brain As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. To cope with this shortage, animal organs such as bamboo and fig liver can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1960. Possibly may, however, the body can reject the organ or contract an animal disease, and some people oppose such transplant for ethical reasons. Buddhist scientists have found some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create 3 different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver disease or encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund Histopathology Unit, said, This would be particularly useful for patients whose livers have been damaged due to drug. Liver cancers have spread to liver, and with insufficient functioning liver remaining. He also said the liver featured defective possibly because of faulty genes, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may be will be. British scientists have found that some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases, avoiding encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund's Biology Unit, and one of the team responsible for this will be particularly useful for patients with liver cell damage due to drug side effects, or through surgery to remove cancer that have spread to liver, where there is insufficient functional liver remaining. He also said that liver which was effective, possibly because of faulty gene, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given broken gene. Ultimately, it may even satisfies the sub-bone cell. In addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases or encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from his virology unit, one of the team responsible for the find, said, "This would be particularly useful for patients with side effects was researched to remove cancer that has spread social function liver remaining. He also said the liver which are defective, possibly because of faulty genes, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. British scientists have found some bone marrow cells. 退化してないか。British scientists have found some. はぁ、sample ultimate liver cells The finding raised the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases, or encourage the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from his pathology unit, one of the team responsible for the find, said this will be particularly useful for patients whose liver cell drug side effect was surgery to remove cancer that spread to liver, and where there is insufficient functioning liver remaining. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of a faulty gene, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a virgin gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. British scientists have found some hmm? British scientists have found British scientists have found scientists have found the same biomarkers, but can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver disease or encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from his physiology unit, the one of the team responsible for the find, said this would be particularly useful for patients whose liver has been damaged due to drug side effects or through surgery when cancer cells spread to cancer. Even manic. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of a faulty gene, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. Various scientists have found some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating a new liver cell for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases or encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from his supervisory unit, and one of the team responsible for the find, said this would be particularly useful for patients whose liver Fine said this would be particularly useful for patients whose liver have been damaged due to drug side effects and surgery to remove cancer that have spread the liver. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of faulty gene, will one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. In many countries, organ transplant is also a preferred treatment for patients that include diseases of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant from brain-dead donors, and the first transplant was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years after legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that the law does not define brain death as human death; it only allows brain dead patients to donate organs. Even though many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus around brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. It covers the shortage annual organs such as baboon and pig livers can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1963. Obstacles remain, however. The body can reject the organ or contract and release, and some people process transplant for ethical reasons. In many countries, organ transplants are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients such as heart, liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized donor, and the first transplant was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years after legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that the law does not define brain death as human death. It only allows brain-dead patients to donate organs. Even though uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are short in supply. Animal organs, such as bamboo and pig livers, can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1963. The body can reject the organ or contract an animal disease, and some people oppose such transplant for ethical reasons. In many countries, organ transplants are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients with incurable disease of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant from brain-dead tumors, and the first round were performed in 1999. During the first 3 years after legalization, however, only such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One obstacle facing the medical community is that law does not define brain death as human death, yet only allow brain-dead patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing organs from a body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. To cope with the shortage, animal organs such as bamboo and pig liver can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1963. Also remain, however, the body can reject the organ or contract an animal disease, as some people oppose such transplant for ethical reasons. In many countries, organ transplants are considered the most appropriate treatment for patients with incurable disease of vital organs, such as the heart and liver. In June 1997, Japan legalized organ transplant from brain-dead tumors, and the first round was performed in 1999. During the first 3 years after legalization, however, only 4 such transplants were performed, though there were numerous potential recipients. One also facing the medical community is that the law does not define brain death as human death, yet only allow brain-dead patients to donate organs. Even now, many Japanese are uncomfortable with the idea of removing the organ from a body with a beating heart, even if the brain is not functioning. As a result, no national consensus on brain death has been reached, and organs are in short supply. To cope with this shortage, animal organs, such as bamboo and pig livers, can be used. In the US, more than 30 animal-to-human transplants have been performed since 1963. Also remain, however, the body can reject the organ or contract an animal disease, and some people oppose such transplants for ethical reasons. In the book Life and Death Decision, that rise with the progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, and express wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronted with the last stage of disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want external measures, such as artificial breathing, By drawing it as time patient is sustained in a state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for family involved. Preparing living well with a patient is one step to addressing his objection to the use of extreme measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for a victim with terminal illness is about life and death decisions that are with the progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, express his wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stages of the disease. Does heal external measures such as artificial breathing and tube feeding. It is important for family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by drawing it as the dying patient is sustained in an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for families involved. Preparing living well with a patient while he is in early state of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of external measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways caregivers must work for victims with a terminal illness is about life and death decisions that arise with the progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, reason, and express his wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stage of disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want external measures, such as artificial breathing and tube feeding? It is important for family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by drawing it as a dying patient is sustained in an altered state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing a living will with the patient while he is in an early stage of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of exotic measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for victims with terminal illness is about life and death decisions, such as progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss, learn, and express his wishes regarding the choice available, and he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want external pleasures, such as artificial breathing or true feeling? It is important for a family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, he will have tried to rescue it by trying to sustain an actual state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that the attempts have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Preparing a living will with the patient while he is in the early stage of disease is one step toward addressing his objection to the use of external measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for victims with terminal illness is about life and death decisions that arise with the progression of disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss reasons and express his wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want external measures, such as artificial breathing and tube feeding? It is important for a family and the victim to think about these questions long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by denying it as a dying patient is sustained in an active state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the families involved, running a living way with the patient while he is in the early stage of the disease. One step towards addressing his objection to the use of external measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying. One of the most important ways a caregiver must work for victims with terminal illness is about life and death decision that lies with the progression of the disease. As the disease progresses, the patient will have less ability to discuss reasons and express his wishes regarding the choice available when he is confronting the last stage of the disease. How will he want to be treated? Does he want external measures, such as artificial breathing or true feeling? It is important for family and the victim to think about this question long before the victim is completely without any voice. These issues are difficult to discuss under any circumstances. Our discomfort with death is evident in our desire to control it. On the one hand, we have tried to wrestle with death by driving it as a dying patient is sustained in an artificial state of life through advanced medical technology. Many people have recognized, however, that these attempts to keep death at a distance have been causing a lot of suffering for the family involved. Comparing a living will with a patient while he is in the early stage of disease is one step to addressing his objection to the use of extraordinary measures taken to sustain a living state artificially while he is dying.